Yeah, this is actually my first podcast since laser eye surgery, which is pretty good. I can actually see things now. When
Yeah.
I'm making that look at the camera, before I could just see a little blur.
Yeah, people are fond of that little glance that you give them. Like,
I know.
let them know that they're in the room with them.
See, there's a part of me that wants to make it more real, as in the reality is that there's a camera sitting right there, and we're sitting here
That's
talking in front of microphones. Some people want to go the opposite way and pretend that we're just having a pure conversation or
Yeah.
whatever. But for me, the camera, the only reason we're sitting here is because we're recording this now to do this. So that's a massive aspect of it. And to pretend that that's not there. And it's like when you're looking at the camera, someone is potentially watching. Probably me.
Yeah.
Pointing to you, Donica.
Yeah,
or Basil or
and
TK.
overanalyzing yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So-
I've seen Joe Rogan do it where he's one time he got a load of flack. I don't know what it was, but he looked directly at the camera in the middle of the podcast to address whatever was being
Yeah.
accused against. And there's no it's not like you're breaking some fourth wall.
It's like I listened to Rick Rubin talk about on Lex Friedman's podcast, trying to make his ideal scenario is just getting the microphone set up, no video, trying to make it so just the audio and in its purest, rawest form to get a conversation. But the fact that you're being recorded actually changes the conversation, pushes it, I think, in a direction that tries to elicit more value out of what you're saying. So the fact that you know that you're being recorded means that, okay, even if you've heard some of this stuff I'm saying already, I'll probably go back over it again if I know I'm being recorded and there's a likelihood that someone else hasn't heard this information, and you'll be like, "Oh, I've heard this before, but I'll let him give this little spiel because we're both there's an underlying sort of subconscious reality when you're being recorded. The frame that it's being put in is it changes things completely. So that's why I like to point to the camera.
Yeah, the other side of it is what Rick Rubin is looking to create. As if me and you are in a room alone now where there's no camera, what would the conversation be? But it's just not possible to get that level of
Not without
rawness.
the people knowing. If the people didn't know they're being recorded, that's the only way.
It's a hidden camera.
But then it's not gonna be great. It's not gonna be as good. It's not gonna be as good. I think.
Because you're gonna be sloppier. You're probably gonna say things that
you don't care about pushing the conversation forward.
Yeah.
You don't really. You're trying to explore ideas, whatever. But the fact is that this is a piece of art, a piece of creative work, and therefore there's a part of you in your brain that wants to produce a good piece of work at the end of the day. So that the framing of the podcast, like that's what the magic of podcasting is in a way. You know what I mean? Because you're on the chopping block and you have to start speaking and you have to try hit potentially good points for people out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a good description of it is
like we're doing right now.
Yeah, Alan Watts described it as a controlled accident. So you're trying to add all the the spontaneity into what you're creating, but at the same time, there needs to be a level of control about it.
Yeah, it's a template in a way. So like even Mark Riboulet, who unbelievable improviser. People need to check him out. He's one of the best performers of our time, I think. But if you look at his how he breaks things down, or if you break down how he does things, there's a formula to it. You know what I mean? He's tinking up the melodies and stuff, but he's like stacking. There's different components that are like sort of always there. Like there's always a drum bit, there's always a bass bit, there's always chords or whatever. So there's like a template in language to what he does, but like you're saying, it creates controlled accidents that create that room for the spontaneity. But you have to have a rule set in order to, because if you didn't have constraints, then you'd have infinite possibilities. So anything is possible, but constraints are actually really good for creative process. I even heard someone talk about how learning music theory, some people think that learning music theory prevents you from being spontaneous and improvise or whatever, but it's just the total opposite. Like anyone who's become unbelievable at guitar usually they learn the music theory because it helps them go deeper into and figure out why certain things are sounding good and help their intuitions grow alongside the underlying theory or whatever. Um, but now I could see,
Yeah.
which is back to our initial starting point, and I do have a little bit of bloodshot in my eye that it seems to be going, does it?
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty clear. The
Yeah,
camera won't catch it.
it's a little bit blurry. Sometimes in the mornings when things are real close, I think it's still trying to heal, but it's absolutely insane. The technology is just remarkable. You basically go into a room, you go underneath this one machine, cuts a hole, flaps this thing over. Then you go in another one, lasers the shit out of that hole with the good laser juice, and then you come out and you can basically see straight away.
Nuts.
I had to drive that day because my friend broke down the street in his car, but I felt like I could drive. I felt it was okay to do so.
Yeah.
And it's just I had shades on because things are very bright. I'm not. It's not recommended to drive immediately. Like it was 6 or 7 hours after.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show how irresponsible I am as a human being. And no, I felt like I could drive. You know what I mean?
No one's accusing you of anything here.
If you, it's like I'm preparing for.
Yeah, this like, you know, you're not on the grandstand here.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
just
the
preparing
people-
for the backlash.
Yeah.
No, what are you doing letting him on? Like he shot me. He could have
Yeah,
killed
no.
a child.
Yeah, that's yeah.
It's not like I was driving the school bus, you know.
Yeah, but that's what we were talking about. If you had blurred vision 200 years ago or 100 years ago, or no, say before glasses, if you had blurred vision, that was it for you. You just seen like mist every day, where you now can just pay $4,000 or whatever it was.
4.5 for the premium service, but you get
Yeah,
20% tax
flexible
back.
payments and all that jazz, and you just get a new set of eyeballs. Like, and think about, right, if someone offered you any amount, if someone offered you $1 billion for one of your eyes, you tell them to fuck off.
Oh, 100%.
There's no price on an eye.
Yeah,
It's just like, it's just invaluable.
exactly.
So
it's a sense.
So one of them,
One of the main senses.
yeah,
Like upgrade. Imagine they could just upgrade
the
your
five
sense,
senses of the world,
like an X-Men or whatever. Yeah.
yeah.
Do you know what's really interesting? I was thinking this. I was kind of doing a walk and meditation, and
I'm better than you.
I'm not. I'm better than you with my new eyes. But no, if you look at a table, you can feel the table with your eyes. You can know imagine what it's like to touch that table now. You can actually feel what your brain is creating a simulation. What's it like to touch this cup?
Yeah, you can create the feeling in your head.
But you do. Like when we look at a spiky wall, we feel the spikes.
Yeah, I better not try and climb over
It's
that.
absolutely insane. I know I've had this realization before, but when you just go around and you're feeling with your eyes, and you just realize that your eyes are actually it's a much more deeper experience than just a visual. Because even in this room, it's creating the perception of doors and walls and where the boundaries are and where the sort of the dangers are and the blockers are in this room in my current situation.
Yeah.
And so your eyes are actually, you're going around feeling things in a way. You can feel cold, you can feel hot, you can feel pain through your eyes.
And as well as that, when you're thinking about scenarios in your head, and you know you're creating the vision, you're seeing whatever you're manifesting in your mind, your brain can't distinguish between if that's real or not. So it feels just as real as if it's happening. So it's the same kind of principle where you're seeing with your mind and creating
your mind's eye.
Yeah, your mind's eye.
That's it's exactly the same mechanism. If you can close your eyes and imagine touching the door, open your eyes, imagine touching the door. It's basically the same sort of experience.
And there was a study done on, I think it was basketball, where there was two different groups. One group trained like once a week, you know, shooting hoops. And then the second group didn't do any training, but they visualized shooting hoops and like making that sweet touchdown every time.
Yeah.
And then when they tested them, like after whatever a number of weeks, the people who, or the group that were visualizing, like making the shots, performed better than those who were actually
Yeah.
doing the physical, real life training.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah, the
really
either before
interesting.
better or just as
No, they were
equal
way
or whatever.
better.
But pretty,
Yeah.
you could be right. Like I'm just trying to think
Yeah,
in my
but
head.
the bottom line is that
It's at least just as good.
yeah,
Um,
to visualize it in your
because
head.
if you have to really visualize it. But once you've done the motion once or
yeah,
twice,
of course, yeah,
then you know what it's like, the mechanics of it to throw the ball, and your brain is because when you actually do throw the ball, it's actually, if you think, now that I think about it, when you're doing the physical act and you're thinking, I'm going to throw this ball into the hoop, your brain is simulating it before you do it.
yeah, which is the same as you just sitting on your couch.
Exactly. So it's the same. It's actually you're making use of the same sort of mechanism. So when you go to do something, before you do it, you have to say, I'm going to do this thing. What would it mean for me to do this thing? And then you run the simulation in your brain, and then you try and recreate the simulation.
Yeah, and it works really well. I've heard people talk about it where, if you've ever done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where you're trying to work through the sequences, people like replay it over and over in their head, and then when they come back to training,
Yeah.
it's much stronger. I was doing a driving lesson, and I was going through the sequences in my head of, okay, stop, clutch, brake, like into gear, and I was just replaying it over and over. And then by the next lesson, I had actually just been I was better at operating the
Yeah.
manual stick just by replaying it. And then another example is that if you have something coming up that you're a bit apprehensive about, if you try and recreate, it's good if you can get, like, let's say you're going to an event and you're talking on stage. If you are able to get access to that stage before the event and visualize the crowd and visualize yourself on the stage, and then go back and replay it in your head and get familiar with your environment, because when you then step into the fire, it's familiar and oh, I've been here before, and you don't get overwhelmed, and you're much calmer because you've done it before. You might have done it 1,000 times before in your head.
There's a really interesting example of this. So there's this British freestyle rapper. He takes input from the crowd. He'll take 5 things and he'll make an unbelievable freestyle about it. When he started first going out and doing this publicly, he got the rug from his childhood home and put it on the stage every time he went out for years. So he was performing on the rug that he grew up on.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something similar to that, or the rug from his home, the rug that he was practicing on. So then when he brought the rug in, it was just that level of comfort. And he'd always keep for the years as well. He kept the same song, basically the same kind of beat. And then he could venture out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He created that safe space to
But
flourish.
But exactly, creating familiarity, because familiarity it just opens up, your heart, and releases any sort of worries. Familiarity with an old friend versus a stranger with a hoodie and a little cap at the bus stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because your brain isn't trying to work out.
Like, I need that money now.
Your brain isn't trying to like create like scenarios in your head that are going to protect you from, let's say it's an audience of 500 people like peering at you.
You're shit.
Yeah, and why we have that fear, you've probably heard, is because, like, in the tribesman days,
Yeah.
where the only time that everyone would be like looking at you with those peering eyes is when they were going to either kill you or like fuck you out of the fucking fuck you off the island.
It's over.
Yeah. So
hey, what's everyone looking at me? What? We're having a good time.
Yeah. So if you can recreate it, then your brain is like, oh
yeah,
I've been here before.
Familiarity is very important to try and recreate when you can. But yeah, it's just been. I've been getting more familiar now with these new eyes, and it's just so interesting to be able to just see without glasses. Even sometimes I'm still pushing the glasses into my head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of still trying to get used to it. You know what I mean? The other night we were at that barbecue actually, Gaffney's barbecue. Shout out to the Gaffneys, and yeah, I smoked for myself. Like I haven't smoked weed in a while. Smoked a bit too much of that fucking premium haze,
Yeah, the addictive
and
personality just.
yeah, it was late into the evening, and I know I've been the weed and sleep has took a sort of sinister turn for me, where if I smoke too late now, I go into I basically when I'm about to nod off, I kind of wake up, and go like, and I'm basically kind of having these weird dreams where I'm gonna die or I need to fight for my life. And I even had these terrible dreams that night, and it was a horrible night of sleep. It was me trying to just keep myself down, and I was having all these dreams where the people that I respected most or loved the most were really disappointed in me, as if I'd done something really bad, and I was trying to explain myself, and they're all just laughing at me, and it was just the most horrendous night ever. And I just think now me, weed, and late night smoking, it's all it's actually over now.
I think it's to do with just a lack of oxygen
Yeah.
because you're waking up on your last breath. Like, so that's related to sleep apnea. So maybe you just get so relaxed in your sleep that you're not fully breathing, and then it creates all these like
Yeah.
near death experiences
Yeah,
in your sleep.
that could be it, because your sleep
Now, I'm
apnea
not a
basically.
doctor, but
Yeah,
like,
Dr. Paddy.
yeah.
If you have sleep apnea, apparently it is a because if you're breathing normally, you're fine. If you're awake, but you only notice sleep apnea when you go to sleep, because your whole neck relaxes, and then your tongue just kind of falls back. It's not like it goes back into
blocks
itself.
the airway.
It just kind of blocks the airway.
Yeah, because sorry, I have a friend actually. That's why I'm saying it, because he had a dream where he was going towards the light and everything was warm and fuzzy, and it was pretty similar to how people describe near death experiences. And he didn't want it to end. He wanted it to keep going. And then he just woke up and, like, you just took that
Oh
like
my
he was on his
goodness.
final breath. And he uses the
crap machine.
crap machine. Yeah, he's
CRAP.
just getting oxygen shoved down his neck every night. But yeah, and it's mad because for me, if I smoke weed at night, I just sleep.
Mm.
Like, no,
If
impacts
if
everyone.
that had me, like, I'd love that. But it never was this bad. It seems like now I can't risk it anymore,
It's such a strange
because it starts
chemical.
bleeding into the next day, and then like I'm in bits because like the sleep was just horrendous. It was like a night of terror.
Yeah, it's just weird how it affects. Like, there's people that can smoke it all day, every day, and they're high functioning, and then there's other people who will smoke it and they just go into a hole. It's just
Yeah.
not for everyone.
Exactly.
And I used to think that, when it was legalized, I remember in Colorado, and I was there sharing, like, I was such a fanboy. Just
We're winning the fight.
yeah, checking weed legalization.
That's all me.
Weed legalization updates.
Oh,
like, I
yeah.
had this website that I'd visit when I was, 18, 19. And I was just thinking, like, it's for everyone. Everyone needs to try this.
I
and
know.
you're an evangelist. But as you grow up, you just realize that some people should never go near it.
Exactly. Especially these days, the strains are they're so strong.
California
Yeah.
love.
I mean, the teenagers of today, the stuff that they're able to get their hands on,
Blasted.
that's the danger of legalization. I'm not anti-legalization by any stretch, but it just opens up another can of worms where, okay, what's it like when if alcohol is legal, kids can definitely get their hands on alcohol. Kids will definitely they're getting their hands. It's not like they can't get their hands on weed, but the strength of these strains is and edibles is another whole thing. You know
But
what I
would it
mean?
not be better then if it was regulated, where the dispensaries, if they open them up here, they only like with alcohol, they were able to put a limit on, say, the volume. And
See, it's hard to
but in America, like, they have the packaging that gets over here, and they have a breakdown of the strength of the weed as well.
yeah, but that's not going to stop a teenager. Will be like, look at that and say, I want more strength.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is, at least you can have some controls.
Yeah, it's just
versus just the Wild West black market.
It's will it make things better or worse for the psychological health of the youth?
I don't know. Like you have to look at where it's been legalized and analyze the data
Yeah.
there. Like Canada, there's I think 14, 15 states in America.
Yeah,
So
it's just something that we have to be wary of, and it's not like it's legal, because people like still they can fuck themselves up on alcohol, they can fuck themselves up on anything, and obviously I don't agree. I think that I like for me personally, I think it should be legal. Um, Potentially a way to mitigate some of the issues would be just to have a limit on the strength or something.
yeah, it is tricky, but yeah, trying to
Like we don't allow the sale of poaching or absinthe. I don't think like
no, I think
99%.
it's illegal.
Yeah. So
Yeah, some constraints, but and then trying to facilitate people who have problems, say with any type of drug,
yeah.
like say non-violent crimes, and trying to help them rather than
Oh
just throwing
yeah.
them into a prison. Give them the help they need. Try and uh, give them rehab to work their way out of it instead of just try like by throwing them into a cell. You're just delaying the problem that's going to come down the line when they get back out.
Yeah. Like see the legal issue can be actually separated out, as in you you could change without legalization. You could like change the laws, and I think in fairness, um, most governments and societies now are becoming more lenient towards, someone just has enough for a few joints or 50 bag, whatever. I think I'm pretty sure that it's more seen as like it's less like, and obviously in America it's just like you're going away for a long time. And I do think we need to be looking more lenient towards
Shouldn't be
people
laughing at
who
that.
just have
Though.
it's actually so sad. We're just throwing away life because of these arbitrary rules that aren't inflicting harm on anyone else. So I think the important measurement for any sort of law should be how much harm does this inflict on um, first the individual, but we can let the individual, they are sovereign individuals and they have like let's just give them free will over their own choices. But when it goes to harming other people and affecting other people, then the law has to kind of step in and say, but when someone has a 50 bag of weed or whatever in their pocket, and they get caught, they shouldn't go to jail. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
maybe. Yeah,
there is like, what about the drug dealers, as in, big like you're shipping in like tons of this stuff. Now that you could say, okay, not, I mean,
they
not
owe
even-
tax.
they owe tax. They at least owe tax.
Yeah,
So they're running an illegal business.
yeah, which is separate from just.
Exactly. So there's another
It
way.
is complicated. Yeah,
It
it's
is a
not just
complicated issue.
they're throwing people who deal drugs into prison.
No,
it's
and
like
people,
no, they actually they made 10 million profit
young lads
last
will
year.
just think, oh, weed's legal, it's fucking grand, but it is a complicated issue, and
We're gonna solve it here.
we're gonna solve it here.
in
Like
the
that's why
next
he
hour.
wears the green suit. It's pure hemp.
Yeah. Paddy Weedman.
Paddy Weedman, yeah.
Weedman.
Weedman's weed.
Weedman.
Oh, Weedman.
Weedman.
Weedman. No, Weedman is good.
I don't know.
You can have it on jars.
What you actually touched on there about the legalization and like people getting thrown into jail and that, you've probably seen the story where this Olympic American Olympian is in Russia. I don't know if she got released, but basically she brought over a vape pen or a THC vape pen and she's getting 10 years in Russia. But the argument is that America are like trying to negotiate a deal to get her back home, and I don't think it's working. But then the argument was, so you fight hard to help this Olympian come back from Russia, but you're throwing all sorts of people in jail for life for non-violent crimes.
All sorts of souls.
But it all comes back to the story. Is there a story behind it?
Yeah.
Can we get people behind the story? And will this make us look good if we can get the outcome that the greater society want? And a good example of this, I don't know what, I can't think of his name now, but basically the guy on TikTok who does the reactions, Kabali or something, where he'll just break down a video. He's never said a word on any of the videos.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he lives in Italy, but he's African. I don't know what country in Africa. But anyway, he just got his Italian citizenship because of his fame. They were never going to give him citizenship
Wow.
ever. But it's just because
Come on.
it's a great story.
Yeah.
And it just comes back to stories. There's no justification. There's no equality. It's just
No.
story. Who's got the best story?
Who's got the best
and
story?
how can we benefit from that story?
100%.
How can it make us look good?
Exactly.
And if it can make us look good, then we're going to do it.
It's more that it makes them look bad if they don't do it. It's like there's
that as well. Yeah.
So what happens is a general consensus forms outside of you. Let's say you're a decision maker as an individual. There's a story growing, a story brewing. This lad on TikTok, everyone, and then people start messaging in. It's gaining a lot of weight, and then the people are like, I suppose we should just do it this one time. Everybody wants it.
Yeah.
So the fact that there's weight behind it, and it's reached kind of this critical sort of mass of interest or popularity among the population, then it just becomes its own thing. Like Madeleine McCann versus, I'm sure there's a statistic that tells you that, a certain amount of children are going missing basically every single day.
Yeah, and it's just in one news cycle, and then
it
just doesn't have the story behind it.
See, we're very hypocritical as a society, because our story, like Free Joe Exotic, your man who did Tiger King. There's people who have put serious money into this, and it's such a, regardless of whether you think he's a good man or not, it's such a stupid thing to put your time into versus, all the other problems that you could be trying to help and solve. But because Joe Exotic, it's a Netflix show, everyone's like hashtag Free Joe Exotic, just because everyone else is doing it. We get swept away, and that's just that's a problem with our psychology in general, because we're not like super rational, logical computer beings.
No, we make
emotional.
the decisions on emotion, and then we justify it with logic.
Exactly.
But it's all emotional.
Exactly. It's all emotional. So, and then if everyone else is doing it, it's like, oh, isn't that sad? And then it becomes like the stuff that becomes normalized. It's just the stuff that reaches your sort of the news desk of your mind in a way.
Yeah.
And then it sort of takes a hold of you, and then you basically give it this importance that it doesn't really deserve, because basically there's so many other issues out there that haven't reached your table that you could be doing things to help and make reduce the amount of suffering in the world. I think is the best measurement.
Yeah, it's very materialistic is the wrong word, but it's in that category. It's just based. It's based on show. It's not.
Yeah, it's the blowing of the wind.
Yeah, which is scary. Just thinking about like decision makers, policy makers.
Oh yeah.
What they're deciding on based on.
They're swayed on
this
what
idea.
how's this gonna make me look in front of these. There's this. It's called audience capture. So let's say you're doing this podcast, right, and then you find that you start touching a certain point. Imagine you love Trump, right? Or you say one nice thing about Trump, and you notice that loads of people like that in your audience.
Yeah.
So then you go down the Trump rabbit hole, and then suddenly you're just next episode you're wearing a MAGA hat,
the Trump guy,
and you're the Trump guy,
yeah.
And you're just like, he's doing great. He needs to come over to Ireland and sort out our problems. You know what I mean? And that's then you get captured by your audience, because you're producing content for them based solely on, and it's not even that it's like you become that person naturally, because because you know that you see that this is working, and then you keep doing it. That's what happens. And I had like Sam Harris, he went off the rails on Trump, like, and I do actually disagree for once now with Sam Harris on how he handled that situation, just because, well, he said that it was okay for journalistic institutions to conspire against Trump, basically, for the greater good. And I just thought, that's a step too far. I can see where he's coming from.
I can see the logic, but it just opens up a rabbit hole to, okay, we done it that time. Why can't we just do it again this time?
He was being honest about like what everyone actually knew what was going on. You know what I mean? And his feelings towards Trump. But anyway, the point is that he he'll lose parts of his audience because of like people that love Trump, but he went. Nobody has went on more rants about Trump than he has. Just like because he's a despicable human being in his eyes.
I'd say if Sam Harris had absolute power, he'd either like put Trump to death or just lock him up forever.
He
like
wouldn't.
one or the other.
He wouldn't allow him to in the presidency. That would be the one thing, at least. Yeah. That's the main thing. It's like we can't elect this person anyway. Forget about what the reasons why.
I get it. I do get it. Like I do get the reasoning, but yeah, it's just a slippery slope.
No, it's just crazy to hear him describe it in the way that he did. He has tried to clarify. Anyway, the point is that audience capture will sort of push you into a box. Just because you see that it's working for your audience, and then you become that thing. And it's very similar to politicians and policymakers. If everyone in Ireland said, we need to free this person, if every single person out, the Taoiseach would say, because it'd be absolute pandemonium if every single person felt in their heart that some change needed to happen, then they'd have to do it. But because if it doesn't reach that critical mass or whatever, and then you see it now with the sort of progressive cultural like ideologies that are really just pushing the rule set and law into a particular frame now, because there's more uproar, or there's more perceived uproar because everything was really living in the virtual world.
Yeah, and it's crazy how the minority are swaying so much of it. Like we watched that documentary on what was it, Matt Walsh?
Oh yeah, What is a Woman?
What is a Woman? And they went into details about how they were letting like 5-year-olds decide what they're like if they were born as a male, that they felt that they were female at 5 and 6, and they were going through they were
surgeries, removing the genitals, removing their reproductive organs,
receiving medication to change their levels of testosterone.
At young ages, at like we're talking 12, you know what I mean? Disgustingly young ages, like cutting. I'm just gonna say this: like cutting a fucking child's like balls off is not just like, it's so barbaric and it's so disgusting that we live in a society where that is even seen, like where a doctor can get their scalpel and feel this is okay to fucking do. It's absolutely, in my mind, it's disgusting and it's just barbaric and it's horrendous. And let's say if they're 18, they're an adult, I suppose, look, people can make their own decisions, but not children, man. Like it's just so, it actually upsets me so much, man.
Yeah, but it's crazy how this ideology has taken off, where it, you know, if you talk to any rational, normal, like rational thinking being, they'll say what you just said is horrendous and should never happen. Well, but yeah, there's these minority of doctors who are fully educated, who are fully trained, lifelong doctors, and they have the complete opposite opinion of you.
So we can see where this started in a way, because there is a real problem, and we have to be compassionate for people who feel that they're born in a body that doesn't represent their gender. You know what I mean? Because that's actually a real phenomenon that people are experiencing, and it's like, oh, that is so terrible that these people are feeling this way. How do we fix, or how do we solve, or how do we help these people? And one way of doing it is gender reassignment surgery. And for I think for adults who are way up all the risks, and because you'll have psychiatrists now, like if I go in and tell a psychiatrist I think I'm a woman or whatever, they basically kind of accept that without going any deeper. And I'm not saying that their problem isn't real, but maybe who knows what the actual problem is. But we're not going to find out what the answer is if we just say yes to everything that a patient says.
Yeah. It could be just an idea.
Could just be an idea.
It needs to be fleshed out.
We can't lose our compassion for people who are genuinely in suffering because they feel that they're born in the wrong body. And like we can say whatever we can say. I think there's an attitude that's like, I don't know, like it's gone the opposite. Sometimes the opposite side can go a bit too far with it, as in They don't show. They're like real. They're like, I won't refer. You're a man. That's it. Like, you're not a woman or whatever. And they'll always just they'll never refer to someone. Like, if someone said to me, look, I know I look like a man, but I really feel like I'm a woman. Like, so I'd really appreciate it if you could refer to me as her. I'd be like, perfect, fair enough. Like, you're a she to
whatever you want to
me,
be
whatever you
called,
want me to, whatever you want. You know what I mean? As long as, because it could be a power play. That's the opposite. The problem is that there's people that are insincere. Because I was very manipulative as a teenager, and you know, I'm not saying, like, there's levels of sort of sinisterism and ability to manipulate the world. So it could just be, it can be power play. Like, people, you see these people that don't allow the other side to talk about a given topic. They'll be at a debate and they'll play loud noise, whatever. These people, for me, are the bad actors, because they're suppressing speech just because suppressing it is easier than having to deal with problems head on. And these are the kind of people who say, you have to refer to me as this, or else I'm not listening to you. I'm not listening to you. La 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 la. You didn't say my name. You didn't say it properly.
Yeah. And then, speaking of manipulation, the transgender performing, I don't know what the correct terms are.
Yeah.
I'm not well versed in this at all, but basically that Olympic swimmer Leah Thomas, who was formerly a man and transitioned to a woman, dominating the swim sports. And then I've watched a compilation of MMA knockouts where these men have transitioned to females and are just absolutely lambasting these girls in MMA fights, which is it's just insane how. And I know there are some institutions that have, like, the Olympics in swimming, they said that they're going to create a new category. But this is the type of manipulation that you're kind of, it's not really similar category.
It's similar to how the story, you get swept away. So you think that being compassionate is allowing males that have gone through puberty, that now identify as women, into female sports. That's the compassionate thing to do, because these are women, right? So let's say that's the frame. It's not really manipulation. It's just that it's like every step just keeps leading to more and more towards this way. So now, then you find that, okay, in all sorts of sports, and women are coming out to speak about this, because it's not fair that a woman can train like so hard, like, because in her limitations, as we all, everyone's limited, like, you know what I mean? But like, males have we're biologically more prone to muscle growth, and
our bones are denser.
We have loads of physical advantages. So when it comes to physical performance, like, men are just have an advantage, and it's not fair that women would have to compete in an unfair system. Like, it's not like brain, like with intellect, like, men and women like are the same. You know what I mean? As in, like, there's stupid men and women, and there's really smart men and women. But it's even. You know
I've seen Jordan Peterson talk about that. Like, on average, men and women IQ is the same, but on the extreme ends, in terms of low IQ, men dominate, and then on the extreme high end, men they don't dominate. But there's more outliers on the extreme ends for males than there is females. But on average, the IQ is
well, either way, the point is that it's not fair for women, in my opinion, to have to compete in sports with people who have obvious advantages. You know what I mean? And now you've seen this, the Olympics women, they come out and said it. So it's not the world. We might look at the world and say, I disagree with this, I disagree with that, but eventually it's like a pendulum. So the pendulum swings really far one way, and then it comes back to a little bit of an equilibrium. So what we're finding now is that, okay, what happens when we let this happen? Okay, we thought we were being compassionate, but we're not actually being compassionate towards women. And then there's people, bad actors, potentially taking advantage of the fact that they can identify as a woman, go into these sports and dominate these sports. And that's another
Heather Swanson.
Exactly. Yeah, it's another potential problem. But what the right answer is obviously let's create an open category
Yeah. It's just a
for
free for
like
all. Yeah.
it's okay to be. See, the thing is, it's like I think it's okay to be to say you don't have to. Right, let's say I transition to a female, and obviously, look, I don't know what it's like to go through gender dysphoria, like really, you know what I mean. So I'm just trying to just explain and understand um, the position. So if I transition to a woman, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that you're a man that transitioned. You know what I mean? Like that you're actually a transgender woman. That's like a category in itself. Now it's still you don't want to be like you still want to treat this person me with compassion. If I say, look, I want to identify as a woman now, can you refer to me by the
Yeah, like on
pronouns?
the podium, like
Yeah,
they'll treat them as whatever way they want to be
exactly.
labeled. Like, yeah.
But it's like yeah, we just need to be you just need to look at the repercussions in other aspects. So like this whole progressive movement um, towards which started as compassion for people with gender dysphoria, which is sort of noble in a way. It feels like it's gone a bit too far when it comes to um, genital mutilation of young children. Like, I mean, when you really think about it, it's absolutely fucking horrific. Um, that that this is okay, and because children don't have a fucking clue
But how
about
is
anything.
it? How is it that a small minority of, it might be 5 to 10% of people like agree with these ways of operating, but yet they just get pulled into the mainstream somehow. It's like we're trying to cater. We're trying to cater for, I don't know, for everyone's needs almost too much. Like.
So what happens is that well, like if you look at other movements in the past, they've all started from kind of minority movements in a way, like the civil rights movement, um, and I think we have the lens of history makes it so that we feel that we've made lots of mistakes in the past. As humans in history, we don't want to make any more mistakes, so therefore, this is the correct way to do it. You know what I mean? In a
Yeah, but
way.
even if there's a minority movement that takes off, like
Mm.
say the civil rights, black rights movement in the 50s, that's there's that's justifiable. Where what we're talking about here about mutilating young children, there's no sense in that.
Mm.
So it's not like a movement that we're gonna look back on that started off as a minority and took off and became like the norm.
Mm.
It's like it's so I don't understand how it's getting people are getting away with it.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's like a boiled frog. It's not like we went straight from zero to children can decide whether or not they can get their genitals cut off by a surgeon or not themselves. It's slowly. It's like okay, let's like gender reassignment surgery. Let's allow adults to do that. Okay, let's um let's start changing the like if people want to be referred to by their pronouns, whatever, let them blah blah. Then it's like oh, but what about then it's about but what about the other pronouns that people are want to make up or whatever, and they're just as valid. Then it's like oh okay, well we let men who transition change their pronouns to she, blah blah. So then and then it's like we let adults, and then it's not fair if we let um, adults grow up from a child and they knew that they wanted to be a different gender. It's inhumane to allow a child to grow up in the wrong body. So you can see where and then once we've let the other little bits go, that's where the compassion it just kind of says, well, oh, I guess you're right,
Yeah,
okay.
I get you. Yeah,
And it's just incredible steps, and then
constantly accommodating to the point
constantly
where
accommodating. But
you're chopping off a kid's balls. Like.
exactly,
But same like any boiled frog.
mm,
Like look at World War II, where it started off, where the Germans, like after World War One, they blamed, they just found a way to blame like Jewish people for their
yeah,
downfall, and then that slowly built up into segregation, having separate toilets, having a day where they just um what would they do? They set up an event where you avoid doing business with any Jewish operation for a day. And then, it just slowly manifests to the point
Yeah,
where, they've murdered 6 million innocent
exactly.
people.
So they went straight to the concentration camps. People were like, "That's whoa, 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 that's not right." But it was a slow boil in a way, and it's not even it's not even that they would have thought concentration camps were a good idea at the beginning. Even, it's just that it's a natural progression of these ideas into
Yeah,
their final form until it becomes too much in a
yeah,
way.
yeah.
It's not like because some ideas didn't exist and they needed to be built upon the previous ideas. So the more we go down these rabbit holes or whatever, or these ways of thinking, then we just we want more and more, and then we never draw the line because it'd be easy to draw the line like when we haven't got real close to it. The closer you are to the line, there's always a room for a little bit more, a little bit more. So the closer you get to the extremes, which is what we're experiencing now, where we're moving to a world of hyper, um, super compassion for everybody, and everybody has to be catered for, and everything has to be thought of, and like no group or no person can feel and you're seeing like the death of comedy in a way. Like I think someone was saying Mock the Week got cancelled. You're gonna see comedy basically kind of deteriorate and then eventually come back, I think, because we can't offend anybody. And a comedy is offense, you know what I mean?
I think the pendulum is starting to swing the other way. A couple of examples. So Jimmy Carr released a special, and there was a horrendous. I think it was a concentration camp joke,
Mm,
and that he was getting loads of backlash, but it kind of just blew over. Not, his
yeah.
Netflix didn't get, or his special didn't get taken down off Netflix. Netflix didn't bow down either. And then Tim Dillon released a special uh, last week, and he was even saying that there hasn't been any pushback, and he feels
Mm,
that people the woke movement isn't as powerful as it was, say, a couple of years
yeah.
ago, where people are sick and tired of it,
Mm.
and they're starting to accept that, look, it's just a joke.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, it's gone too far, and eventually, I think in 5 years' time, or there's some reasonable time frame where we'll just think, oh, things reach a better equilibrium, where we are compassionate for people of all races, genders, ethnicities, and feelings of whatever they're feeling, and we don't. It's just about no reducing hate and sort of the bullying, the nastiness in the world. You know what I mean? That's where it's all coming from. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like they think. And then what happens is, as you start gaining a foothold in a movement, I feel, and you're the figurehead of that movement, then you move towards that power. Like you're doing stuff, and then you're the head of this thing, and then you become you're on the extreme end because you've been captured by your audience, like we were talking earlier as well.
Yeah, yeah. There's just, anyway. I have this biased view, and I can completely understand where people are, why people feel a certain way when it comes to throwing out hate, and especially when on the likes of social media, where there's no consequence for you. You can just have an avatar, and you can just comment on someone and just say the nastiest thing ever, and just think that it's not having any impact, or it's not having any effect, and you can just get away with it, and that's just become the norm.
Yeah.
But there's people on the other side that, are potentially, you've heard of stories where people have committed suicide because of cyberbullying, but for the person on the other side, they're just writing a comment, and they're not putting any past to it. And I actually had an interaction on one of my videos where, and I think if you're putting stuff online, you just have to have a thick skin. You have to
Oh
be.
yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Exactly.
And you know, but I had this interaction where this person, he said total BS under one of my videos, and then a lot of the times I won't entertain it because you just get pulled into, you know, it's just not good. You get pulled into an interaction,
an argument with a fictional character.
Yeah, where no matter what you say, they're not going to be able to sympathize or empathize
They've
with
made
your
up their
points.
mind.
Especially when there's no room for an open dialogue where it's just like you're full of shit.
Yeah, and it's in a public domain.
Yeah. So they might think their reputation is on the line, their friends and all sorts are watching. But this person just wrote total BS, and I explained my point of view, and then he sent me a message and said, "Look, I actually really like what you're doing. It was very rude of me, and I deleted the comment." And that was the first time out of I don't know how many interactions that someone actually went ahead and retracted what they said, which was great.
Yeah.
But it's just strange that it's become the norm to just hate.
Yeah, it's
very strange.
It's just the online, the people obviously that are dragged into commenting online, they are coming. It gives you a sense of power as well. You know what I mean? And I can pull this person down. Who knows? Actually, it's a complicated issue.
Yeah, it's definitely a symptom of a much larger problem.
Yeah, it's people that become cynical. Do you know what I had this really dark thought, right? Imagine, right, you want to inflict the worst pain on the world, right? You go, right, you find loads of creators who are just starting off, right? And you just keep messaging them saying, "You're making a show of yourself. You
should stop.
Should stop now." And that's all you did, man.
Yeah.
Think how fucking bad the world would be, and like you could be like, yeah, like
how many dreams you could derail.
Look at how shit that was.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, oh my god, like when I actually felt that darkness, it just made me feel just more motivated to do the complete opposite.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But it happens.
Exactly.
Like I get them comments.
You get them comments. You've reached a trajectory of where you can say, okay, well, obviously it's clear that I'm adding value. So you can be, even if you weren't that strong willed or minded or secure. The fact is that you have credentials and actual evidence of people getting value from your work. But for people that are just starting off and they're trying things and they're just making mistakes, and then like they're already feeling a bit down about whatever it is, and then someone just keep like their job is to keep hating on people.
Yeah, at the start, if you're just trying and you haven't full proof of concept and you get a negative comment,
oh man,
it's no wonder why people would just leave it.
And that's why I know it's a bigger problem in teenagers, but like cyberbullying in a way, that's what cyberbullying is. Because bullying is like a sort of diminishing of somebody else, and it gives you that great feeling of like, oh yeah, like look what I did to this person. They thought they were this and now they're that. Now I'm sort of inflicting pain with my power in a way. I don't know. Bullying's a complicated issue.
Yeah,
but that's what it is. That's what it will be.
Yeah, instead of someone abusing the content or abusing the actual person, who they are, and then their way out of it is to end their life rather than to close down their business page. Like, so it's a
exactly. And it's interesting because imagine we were sitting here with it's like, oh yeah, you left that comment on his thing, didn't you? And it's like, oh yeah, I was only messing.
I've seen a few of them in real life where the person has confronted and it's always the same. It's like, come on man, like some lad went into a workplace where he was waiting staff, and this guy was like massive tank, like tattoos. It's a viral video, and your man just starts trying to ring the police, like, because your man's just going, look, like, why'd you say these things about me and all? And he couldn't believe it. His staff were there and all, so he was like, you need to leave now, sir. You need to leave now.
Wow,
and it was crazy. But yeah, that's the thing. Even if the person that, I understand it. I'll see someone post something, I'm like, fucking idiot. Like, you just have this thought. I don't know where it comes from. And it might be jealousy. It might be a reminder of something I'm not doing. It could be a whole host of things. It might be that I just feel shit about my day today, and then I see something I don't agree with, and I just have an outburst,
Yeah.
a non-conscious outburst.
Yeah.
But if you sat down with that person, got to know them, or whoever it was, 9 times out of 10, you're going to think completely different of them. You're going to think, geez, that's just another human.
Yeah.
That's just another person. The same way that if a friend or family member was posting stuff, you're gonna support them, hopefully, rather than feel like you have to belittle them. So I think the disconnect of the not you don't know the person,
Oh yeah.
that just makes
There's no
it,
consequences.
yeah, and it just, yeah,
It's so easy to just get in with your little comment or whatever, and yeah, it's just a shame that that exists, but that's just always got to exist.
but there is, like, there's a lot of, I think there needs to be some, like, people need to be, we talk about hazing. So in our friend group, like, lads will go back and forth and they'll just abuse each
Yeah.
other, but that's how they get along. And it's it's an act of keeping people in line and reminding them of, when they're not on the path, or when they're slipping up, or
Mm,
when they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing. So
yeah.
there's a lot of value in, hazing,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. It just
what could you
depends on.
say?
It's like you have to be laughing with them in a way. Still.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to make is, if someone posts something online
Mm,
and it's in bad taste, or whatever it is, and they might think they're doing a good thing, people need to. It's good that people will set them straight so that
yeah.
they don't keep repeating it, because it's frowned upon, or whatever it
Mm,
is. So you need to be able to, like, be open with criticism as well, and
yeah.
not just react emotionally.
Yeah, yeah, you just have to put it in that in the frame of, okay, this is online criticism, therefore it can hold value or it can hold zero value, and it just depends on what I give it. But I don't get emotionally invested. That's the thing. If you get emotionally invested, you don't have to get emotionally invested in it. Like if someone says like it looks like you're gaining a lot of weight in your videos, then you can look at that and say he doesn't know what he's talking about, or you can say, Jesus, maybe I have let myself go a bit, and you can make the adjustments, but you don't have to. It's when you give it emotional weight and you let it in, then
Yeah,
you can be more objective and sort of sit outside it. But it's hard when it's content that you've done. It's a personal, very personal work.
yeah, yeah. It's tricky, but it's just part and parcel of it now,
Yeah,
of being a creator, or just putting anything out online.
yeah, no, exactly, like your man. And I feel bad, but on LinkedIn, you sent me something, and
Yeah, the crying CEO.
yeah, it just so you explain the story a little bit.
Yeah, so this guy laid off 3 staff members, I think, and he put up a selfie of himself crying in the aftermath of letting the 3 employees go. And yeah, just had a long-winded post about how upset he was to let the staff go.
And he had a picture.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, I said that he had a selfie of himself crying,
Yeah,
um, which,
it was like it was like a imagine a proper selfie, a portrait with like a tears going down his face, posted on LinkedIn, a sort of um professional career social media platform.
former.
Former, because it's turned into something else.
Yeah, it's Facebook.
Now my first reaction, obviously now, LinkedIn has become, it's become a sort of a meme in itself in a way. People are just trying to equate simple, stupid things with like CV qualities like leadership or whatever. It's like, oh, I was in line for a coffee and I let someone go ahead of me. Like I showed initiative and compassion or whatever it is that they're
Yeah,
trying
here's
to.
the 7 lessons.
Here's the 7 lessons I learned.
Yeah,
So this guy who fired 3 people and then posted made it about him first of all by posting the picture of him crying and trying to make it. Oh, it's about him and his story, not about these
Yeah,
people.
it was a personal brand move.
It was a personal. It's exactly, and the fact that he had to sit there and like take a picture of him crying himself.
Yeah, whenever you're taking a selfie, you never just take one selfie.
Oh, there's probably just a catalog of his tears in his phone
You
memory
might have
bag.
to, like dig up a couple extra, like just to get the magic shot.
Oh, exactly, and maybe a little bit of filtering. Who knows? But it just seemed, it was hard for me to see that, like see that. Okay, what's he trying to do
Is
here?
he being genuine?
Yeah, even if he is being genuine, he has so little self-awareness that he doesn't realize that how self-serving and sort of grandiose this gesture looks. And I just thought this has gone. We delude ourselves in so many ways, and it's very possible that he thought. But he didn't think, as like the way I'm looking at it now, the frame of it's completely self-serving and grandiose. He just thought, oh, this will be a great thing to post, to show, blah blah blah. But the way he rationalized it probably sounded a lot better than what I'm saying. You know what I mean? But it's still the same thing.
Yeah. No, the thing is, he just got like it went viral on all platforms,
Yeah.
and he just would have got
Views.
people were just uploading their takes left, right, and center. But
And we're doing a take now,
and we're doing it now as well.
So yeah, I feel
But that's what we're saying. If someone monumentally fucks up, they need to be reminded. Like,
yeah.
And I think that's different to bullying.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you could take it to the fact where I could make pictures of him and I could create an animation video and like I could stretch it out.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if I posted something like that and everyone hated it, I'd want to be told that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, you should definitely. It's not. That's not bull. Like that's just genuine people would eat like us. Like I wouldn't care if someone's posting a video on some other mundane bullshit, whatever. But this is it's because it's such a symptom of the problem in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's he just happens to be the current vessel for it. You know what I mean? So it's now we can talk about this because it's actually reflective of a much bigger, broader issue with LinkedIn and these sort of self-serving posts. So yeah, obviously now he just made a massive mistake. You know what I mean? And he's probably
he won't make it again.
Yeah, exactly. And he's ruined potential. Well, like
I think some good did come out of it though, because there was a outcry for people to get him to tag the employees that he let go.
Oh.
So then people could help them find work, which is, he excluded all that information in the original post, but I think they ended up getting assistance with finding a job.
Exactly.
Which is, if that's the net outcome, if he had to get abused online, these people, so there is a silver lining.
The culture has grown from it. You know what I mean? We're all now more aware of, okay, when people are saying there's problems with LinkedIn, now we all have an example to point to. You know what I mean?
But a lot of people were behind it though as well, and I've seen probably in the last 2 months, I've seen maybe 6 or 7 grown men uploading pictures of themselves crying. Like, this wasn't the first one.
I can't just imagine taking a selfie of you crying and feeling when you're really sad. The last thing
get that camera out of my face.
Get that camera out of my face. I'm so sad and I'm crying and this is sore. I hardly want to capture this moment and put it online. Honestly, God.
I've had enough. But
no, it's just too far, and it's a total lack of self-awareness.
It's just to get attention, like.
Exactly, yeah. And certain personality types are more prone to these sort of what I would say is they're deluding themselves, because if you ask them, they might actually genuinely think, but they're so up their own hole.
To ask them.
Man, get them on the podcast.
Look, they're not. Yeah, like no one's perfect.
Exactly, and we've all Jesus, we've all made mistakes. You know what I mean? With busking, I've pissed people off. Like even not in busking, I've pissed people off. Just being a loudmouth Irish long
Yeah,
hair
trying to get
crazy
attention.
man, trying to get
It's
attention.
in the same vein.
Exactly. Yeah. I just try to do it, but in my head I'm playing the game of do it in a way where it's not obvious. You know what I mean? Because I know that rubs people up the wrong way. So maybe even I'm worse than him.
Well,
No,
I'd argue that what you're doing with the busking is there's a trade-off. So you're providing, you're providing entertainment. It's a unique experience walking down the road and seeing some Irish fella riffing on all sorts and describing the people that are walking by. Like that's not an everyday experience. So you're providing them with value.
Yeah, no, I'm not deluded in I'm not
And then the trade-off is you get attention for that.
yeah.
So that's a fine.
No, I'm not saying there's anything. It's just
transaction.
There's ways of doing it that are more aligned with reality. The reality of the situation is that I'm not up there, and it's not like a forced thing. You know what I mean? And I'm self-aware enough to realize, and just being humble as well. But it just rose people. If you're like Ed, I was watching Ed Sheeran perform a live set there, and he's so unbelievably good. Do you know what I mean? But even him, he's not like, I'm the fucking best. Yeah, you know what I mean? He just goes and shows it, and
yeah, it's a weird one though, because there are people that we have got behind who have risen up because they were confident and then they were overconfident. Like Conor McGregor when he was on the come up and he was just saying I'm the greatest, I'm the best ever. And at the start people are like, oh, who's this loudmouth? And then he proves himself. So I think if you can back up the confidence,
if you can back it
there's
up,
a lot to be said for that as well.
Oh, if you can, 100%.
But there's so many different variables at play. Like someone could be really good at what they do and be a cunt about it, and it just wouldn't work.
I know. It depends on what the domain is.
The charisma of the person really plays a part.
Like fighting, it's the ultimate kind of like, I'm gonna knock you out.
Yeah, it's very different.
It's like that realm of fighting and violence is so different. And even you could see anything where there needs to be competition or combative nature, like rap battles, for example. That's where you'll see a lot of, because that's actually in the art form, and that competitiveness pushes people to abuse the other person in more creative and linguistic ways. And with fighting, it's similar, because there's the combative spirit, I think, allows for that sort of like grandiose, like, I'm the best ever, look at me, I'm so clever, gonna punch you in the face, gonna hit you with my
leather. It's really
leather.
interesting because all the rappers have like their top 5 list, and they all have back and forth where they have like diss tracks on each other.
Yeah.
So you're spot on, but then if you look at like pop music or rock and roll, they're not like I'll always be the greatest guitarist of all time. Like it's
well, you see different. A bit of it, like Oasis, like Noel Gallagher, he'll be just abusing.
They're just
it's
outliers,
different.
I'd say.
Because it's not part of the thing. You know what I mean? Like rap is gritty, it's cool, it's technical, it's like hardcore. You know what I mean? It's like raw. It's not
like you wouldn't see it in snooker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, snooker, like, or darts is like.
But it'd be way better though.
Oh yeah, it would be. It depends. It depends. I think in snooker, maybe is it harder to play when people are making noise?
Oh yeah, you need. Well, they used.
How can people play dart? Like, would it not be better if everyone was silent?
Possibly.
Like these lads are playing.
They have money to make.
It's unreal, but it adds another element. You could probably get used to it. They must get used to it, because you have lads who are great at darts. Not that this is my
Raymond Van Barneveld.
but yeah, your man, like, who hit
Phil Taylor.
He hit
Van Gerwen.
Yeah, how many? Like 9.
He hit 2 back-to-back 9-darters, I think.
Yeah, that's how.
Or he came close. I don't know.
Like imagine me in the crowd for that. Like you couldn't take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it depends. It depends on what the culture is sort of what the culture is like in a way.
Yeah.
That can kind of bring out different things.
Mm.
Um,
But yeah, we're at an hour and 10.
oh yeah, we'll start wrapping it up.
So unless you,
Just on the podcast though, how you finding doing the Paddy podcast?
yeah, it's what Gary Vee talked about with the pillar content. So I'm just thinking, how can this add to the overall enterprise while trying to develop my ability to articulate my ideas?
Mm.
But I found that because I'd spend a couple of hours every day sitting on the couch, taking out the phone, and trying to record these career content ideas that I'd post to Instagram and TikTok. And over the last couple of weeks, I've just been able to chop up clips without having to put the suit on, without having to set up the lighting.
Mm.
So it's just optimized my entire way of producing content. So long may it last. Like, it's been great.
Yeah.
Uh,
And the clips as well. It's very interesting what you've the one with me and Monksy, the clips that you've been able to sort of get out of the podcast. Like you're showing sort of your prowess in editing and understanding what makes a sort of a viral video in a way.
yeah, like a lot of it is just holding attention. And I seen Mr. Beast, he hit 100 million subscribers on YouTube, and he released a 30-second short, like a small clip, and I think it had 100 different chops in it, like 100 different variations, 100 different movements, and it was all about just keeping the person's attention, keeping them engaged. So that's because on TikTok, you know yourself, when you scroll that news feed, you're just getting fed the greatest entertainment of all time. So you're competing against fucking, a dolphin, like chasing or running away from or swimming away from an orca.
Yeah.
It's like there's some top quality
It's
shit.
unbelievable.
So you really have to just like find the content, especially for what I'm doing, that people can take action on, and it's something that they may not have thought about, and it needs to be delivered fast and furiously
Without like as minimal sort of dead silences as
no
possible.
fluff. Like with the clip that we uploaded to TikTok, it got 2.5 million views, and I went to the end, an hour and 3 minutes, to find like a 3-second soundbite that I was able to then move to like the middle of
the
60-second clip that went out on TikTok. So you're just pulling it apart.
Frankenstein.
Now, with that being said, it doesn't, like, the time it takes to upload the content, it's no quicker.
Yeah. Well, it's higher value.
Yeah. Well,
potentially.
Yeah. It's hard to know.
This seems like more sort of facets of your skill set that you're practicing and training. If you're just doing these kind of form, it's different. It's a different skill set in a way. But yeah, no, it's interesting. How you've been able to just recreate like hit after hit. You know what I mean? You understand the landscape so well, and it's just really interesting.
Yeah, you get it from just being a consumer and just observing, because the roadmap for everything is out there. There's a blueprint for whatever someone is doing, where they're running the show, they're the head honcho in the industry. You can literally just, like, they put everything out that they're doing. So you can either just like observe, replicate, add your own bit of spice, and if you stick at it, it'll work. There's no fucking secret sauce or hidden secrets.
It's just all there for you.
It's all there.
Yeah.
But anyway,
look, that was it.
Yeah. On Instagram, people can find you.
Basil Breen. Just type me into any search bar, basilbreen.com.
Yeah, he'll be tagged
Paddy,
below this
Paddy's
video.
brother.
Yeah. And
Yeah, that was
yeah,
it.
thanks for listening. Take care.